We good. We good. Good.
Yep, we live.
All right. At the time, let's get this thing going.
All right, let's be real about intent.
That's interesting. I don't know what we got to talk about for that to be the title of today's podcast.
Intent. Okay.
Well, with the intent, it might have to start with our real talk session with Tuke. Tuke, what intent? What maybe it came from the real talk session. Help us out, man. What we talking about?
All right, so I'm gonna read y'all a quote real quick, and it says that you have to adapt or die, and I don't plan on dying. That quote, ladies and gentlemen, was by none other than Mr. Head or ex-head coach Jon Gruden. And it's funny that he says that because he didn't take his words literally. So I'm gonna ask you guys, starting off with Lito, what was his intent after he sent those racially influenced emails to different owners, or talking about a member, I think was it Michael Sam of the LGBTQ community and him getting drafted? What do you believe that his intent was after sending those emails that ultimately led to him being fired? Or I'm sorry, pardon ways with his
There you
team.
go.
There you go. Let me get the words right.
Parted ways.
Let me get, because people like us, we get fired, but people that don't look like us get fired.
Yeah.
I ain't got to go on there. What was his intent?
I'm not sure what his intent was, but I definitely grasp from from what some of those emails read, or like some of the stuff that he even said, like even after he was asked about those emails, was the fact that he didn't care. He doesn't care about people that don't look like him. He doesn't care about people who have different views or different outlooks on life than he does. And so because of that, I was really, I was more pissed off at the racist comments than more so the comments about the other community. I mean, that was just me from the get-go. And I was of the mindset that he should have been let go then at that point. It's just kind of interesting, I guess, that he decided that he and the Raiders decided to part ways once all of these emails came out. But like I said, I'm not sure what his intent was, but it shows that people of that particular race don't care about the Black community, people of other different walks of life. So it's one of those things that I don't understand how people say that they're shocked by this. There are white people, there are Black people that say that they're shocked by it. And I'm at the point now where I don't put anything above anybody. People will say things, people will do things behind closed doors, won't stand on those things that they, I guess, believe, or that they believe, that they believe on. They just don't. They won't stand on it. That's interesting. And for him to say adapt or die, like he never once did that. Jon Gruden has been something of it. He's been in the NFL, coaching circle. He's been part of the NFL for what, 20 plus years, and in no way has he adapted in any form or fashion. So, like I said, I'm not sure what his intent was, but it was kind of sorry to see that he said that particular thing. And then he was also, I can't remember exactly what he said, like towards the end of the interview, but he kind of was like, he got, in a sense, it seemed like he didn't care. It seemed like he didn't care. So that was my issue with him. I'm happy to see that he's no longer a coach. I don't think he'll be a coach. I don't think he'll be affiliated with any other teams from this point forward, and I'm okay with it. I'm just of the mindset that I hope that the NFL continues to do everything that they can to ensure that they welcome all people to be a fan of their particular sport. And that also continues with the pressure to look into what the Washington football team and Daniel Snyder has done as well.
Yeah, I hope we talk about that too. Three things I want to talk about for this topic. The first being, um, first of all, there's not enough asterisks, I will assume, for Jon Gruden Super Bowl because he didn't adapt with that team. He got a team and took them to the Super Bowl, but that's neither here nor there. Wash my hands of that one. Second part is what you say. He was comfortable with what he said in the email, which lets you know that he says things a lot like that outside of those emails, right? Inside with his other circles of friends that I just call them his friends that are with him. So he was very comfortable with hitting send and sending that out, whether it was for African Americans, whether it's for the young ladies, whether it's for that community. It matters not. He was comfortable saying that. And to your point, Skylar, which is it's not really like an apology. It's just like, yeah, I'm sorry. Let me
Yeah, he
resign.
was like, "That's who I am." Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like take me as I am. But we don't want to take you as you are. That's not a good person to be a leader of people. But unfortunately, there are those types of people within America, within the world itself. But we just don't want those people to be leaders and have spotlights within the world. My other part about this too. Last week I had on here. I think my tagline was Sheedy Chappelle. And if you haven't seen the Dave Chappelle special, please do. And just a quick reference about this and about this whole thing with Jon Gruden, and to your point as well that you've already made, Skyler. Dave Chappelle talks about how within that special, how some people try to get him pretty much, well, not that him, but how we as African Americans are jealous of that community. And it's not, we're envious of them because the moment someone says something that is wrong towards that community, they're gone or changes are being made immediately. Whereas African Americans have suffered for centuries. And when something is done wrong to us, it takes more and more and more to happen. This was a perfect case and scenario right here. He was not fired or resigned right after we found out about the email sent to Upshaw, to NFLPA. He resigned after the comments to the young ladies and to the LGBTQ community. Now, please understand, a spade is a spade, wrong is wrong. What Dave Chappelle was trying to enlighten us on is that wrong should be wrong for everybody. It should not just include a particular set or group of people. So in that case, he should have been fired or resigned immediately once we found out what he sent to the NFLPA, but he didn't. Oakland was not ready to let them go. NFL was not ready to let them go. But the moment we found out that he was, doing stuff wrong or saying things wrong to women, which again is wrong, saying things wrong about the LGBTQ community, which again is wrong, now we have to make you resign. But why did we not have that same energy when he talked about the Michelin lips of a black man? That's my issue.
Yeah, and to your point, I think because I was one of the ones last week when the original email about the NFLPA's president came out. I pretty much said, well, because this was 10 years ago, change, of course, as I said before, change behavior is the best form of apology. But with these other comments that has recently come out, I'm more upset, kind of pretty much what she said. Pretty much, I'm upset at the fact that now they're making a big issue about his comments about the LGBTQ community, and of course the comments about women. It has completely erased the fact that the very first thing comment that came out was him making a racist remark. I guess not being about racism pretty much the moment these other comments came out, and that's pretty much what I'm more upset about as well. With that, Dave Chappelle was hit the nail on the head with that 100%. As far as him getting fired or parted ways or resign, because he's basically white. If white privilege was present in the NFL, like Jon Gruden would be the exact form of it. Because let's be honest, what have you done for yourself in the NFL? Like, yeah, you have a Super Bowl, but that's only Dungeon team. Let's just be 100% real, 100% real there. And then, of course, you came to Tampa Bay from Oakland, where you were, I guess, an offensive coordinator or something of that nature in Oakland. So it's kind of be real there. But in the end, okay, I will definitely look to try to get on my phone. All right. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Just karma, basically.
So yeah, with it being karma, so pretty much the NFL and apparently Mike Davis, who's the owner of the Raiders, they knew about these emails for years. So what do y'all think there was intent behind the NFL with him still having a job? Like, because we know we should know the guys that we're hiring. Like, if you went through the process of actually hiring the best character, especially for a 10-year contract, right? Like, you should know the personality of your character. You should know the character of your character. But he still was able to have a head coach as an NFL job as an NFL head coach. What do y'all think the intent was behind that for him having a job still?
I think they wanted to, when they brought on the coach, when they brought on Jon Gruden, I think they wanted a name. I think they wanted to make a splash, with who they were hiring. Because you're moving from California to Vegas. It's a new stadium. It's a new community. So they wanted to make a splash hire with that particular hire. And I guess at that particular time, Jon Gruden was the answer. Wouldn't have been my answer, to be honest with you, but I think that's what they were thinking.
Yeah, I couldn't. And walking with you as well, Skylar, like there needed to be a big name attached to that move. And if it wasn't and it's the Raiders. No, granted, like they're not winning Super Bowls. They barely even making it into the playoffs. But it still has, not a grit grind feel, but it's a gritty team. It's a gritty franchise. It has a lot of history. And so when you make those type of moves, I hate to say that Jon Gruden was maybe their best choice. They intended to have him. Now, are there other people and coaches that we think are better suited and should have had a shot? Yes, I believe there's plenty of coaches. There's a team that has at least 2 to 3 coaches that I believe could have done better or could have done just as well as Jon Gruden has done since he's been with, I don't know, we call them Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders, with the Raiders. But those people aren't getting a chance, whereas there are some other coaches that are getting second chances, and it's unfair. And to your point, too, it's a 10-year, $100 million contract. They're paying that man $10 million a season to not even make it to the AFC Championship game year after year after year.
Let alone the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Exactly. Playoffs.
No, I said playoffs. Get to the playoffs first.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, I think before we start giving big names, Jacksonville, big names for coaches, let's also look at the coaches that are ready to perform at the highest level and then give them a chance besides giving these other coaches second, third, and sometimes seventh chances.
Right on. Last question for me. Where do the Raiders go on from here?
I mean, what else is there for you to do? I mean, you just continue to play the season as it's played and figure something out in the offseason. Of course, we know Derek Carr is looking for a big payday. As he still is I think he's in the final year of his second deal, if I'm not mistaken. So, of course, he's looking for a bigger deal. So, I don't know, man. You just got to roll with the punches. I mean, you're still kind of in the hunt for the playoffs. So you just got to move forward for right now and just address what you can address in the offseason.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Derek Carr is coming back. They've already had commitment issues with him. Not even just Mike Mayock, but Jon Gruden as well. And they have, in no shape or form, have tried to have extension talks with him. I think he's gone. I think Mike Mayock is on the hot seat as well too. I mean, he's done a pretty decent job over the past draft or two, but still, it's the fact that you were willing to. Well, Jon Gruden came first. I think it was Jon Gruden, then Mike Mayock, whatever the case may be. I think they may need to start looking into him as well too. But I mean, if anything, go get Eric Bieniemy, who's in the same division as you, like who again is who's been the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. I mean, if anything, that's low hanging fruit. That's right there. So if you want to get rid of the whole like, we want to make sure that we are in support of we did support what Jon Gruden did. We're all for hire minority coaches, whatever the case may be. Eric Bieniemy is right there. That's what they would do. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. Like, if it is possible to reconcile, so to speak, what Gruden has done, they may intend to hire an African American coach as well. As you look at the rest of their schedule, though, this Raiders team could potentially still make the playoffs as an extra team. So their best bet to me will be to win and try to get into the playoffs. Of course, to me, they'll get mollywopped in that first round. But you're playing against Chiefs twice, yes. But Bengals, Washington, Colts. You have a few games that you could possibly win. That's the best response. Whenever things are going wrong, the best response is to win. So I know you guys talk about like later on. I'm talking about this season. And then from there, yes, definitely move on. I think Derek Carr has run up his time. And I think definitely with Jon Gruden being up out of there, let's just start with a whole new regime and maybe bring a few of those Chiefs or some Buccaneers coaches up and start with something new there in the Raiders Nation. I think that's a great time for them to restart who they are.
Right. I think just to end everything, I think I'm like really disappointed because like I called them my Bills for last year, right? I said the Bills was going to turn up last year. They did. I said the Raiders were going to turn up this year. And unfortunately, they got an idiot coach who don't know how to send correct emails. But I'm going to end y'all with one more quote. You never stay the same. You either get better or you get worse. You should listen to your own words, Mr. Gruden. It'll help sometimes.
And the fact that you got that from Jonathan Gruden is exceptional. So as we switch gears as well, speaking about, betting, not betting, but just, doing better as well. Let's make these better bets this week. We got Tunica Trevor in the house about to give us his bets for the weekend.
Yes, what is good, everybody? And my apologies because I hadn't been able to do a full extensive research going into these bets. Just for the simple fact, I was in Orlando most of last week. Didn't really have time to sit and lock in as I typically do in the other weeks. But fairly decent week last week with my bets. I ended up splitting basically one of each. So that brings my record now to, if I'm not mistaken, 14 and 13. So just still slightly over 500 as of right now. Here we go. I'll start, of course, with college football. You probably got about 30 minutes before you could get these last few bets in before, of course, kickoff starts. Going to stay in the SEC. Looking at Texas A&M versus Missouri. Texas A&M, of course, coming off the huge upset win at home, upsetting number one Alabama. They're showing up as only a 11.5 favorite against Missouri, who can't stop a nosebleed right now, giving up nearly 500 yards of total offensive a game, which ranks dead last in the SEC. So, of course, Texas A&M coming off that huge win, probably looking to get some momentum going back their way. So I do not see how Texas A&M can not only win this game outright, but cover that 11.5 point spread. So give me Texas A&M there. Secondly, I am as a bounce back game, another usual suspect, bounce back game. Alabama at Mississippi State. I think Alabama's 17.5 point favorite. Alabama's looking to bounce back, obviously, from the loss last week. They're going to come out playing mad. They're going to look to establish dominance right out of the gate. So give me Alabama as a 17.5 point favorite over a Mississippi State team, of course, the same Mississippi State team that lost to Memphis, who's also beat A&M. And the SEC West is just – the SEC as a whole is just crazy as far as who's beating who and who's lost to who. So give me Alabama in the bounce-back game and give me Texas A&M to cover against Mizzou. As far as the NFL is concerned, I saw this as a trap game potentially. I may still lean towards it because of the spread itself. But shot in the dark, again, forgive me because I haven't had a chance to lock in. I'm going to go with the Cowboys again this week. 3.5-point favorite at Foxborough. Granted, the Patriots they've missed 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. Was out last week. I think they're getting a couple of those guys back. I think a lot of people are kind of underselling Dallas a little bit. Yes, they beat up on a Giants team that was could have had us out there and probably wouldn't have done much better. And then, of course, they had the big win the week before against the Panthers. But I think 3.5 is a good spot for Dallas to cover here. If Mac Jones could throw the ball down the field, I would have stayed away from this bet, but I don't think the Patriots have just enough on offense to even keep up with Dallas. So give me Dallas there as the 3.5-point favorite. And lastly, let's see. No, that's a trap game for them, so I won't look at the Cardinals and the Browns. That's a trap game for the Cardinals potentially. So,
That's interesting.
I'm gonna say this. I think I like the Browns in that game.
Yeah, that's definitely that's a trap game for the Cardinals because the Cardinals right now are actually a 3.5-point underdog. So the Browns are actually a favorite in this game. So,
Y'all must don't be seeing what that MVP doing right now. Oh, okay.
No, I think actually no. Now that I think about it, now that Arizona's an underdog, I would actually go with this one.
Exactly. Come on.
I would take Arizona as a 3.5-point underdog because they could still lose by 3 and cover. So yeah, give me the Cardinals here at plus 3.5 against the Browns this Sunday. Of course, Arizona's riding high; they're undefeated. Cleveland is, I wouldn't necessarily say shaky, but it's an AFC North team. So, of course, the games you're supposed to win, they never win. And games you don't expect them to show up, they show up. So, Cleveland can win this game, but it'll be entirely close. So, I'm actually going to take Arizona as the 3.5-point underdog there. And your best local bet of the week, bet this at your own risk. I'm looking at the Vols today. It's practically a toss-em. It's like a 1.5 favorite at home against Ole Miss. Of course, Tennessee is coming off of been on a pretty decent roll. Of course, with that shellacking to Missouri, then an impressive home win against South Carolina. Ole Miss coming off their huge overtime win against Arkansas. Neyland is going to be jumping. Lane Kiffin is going to be on the sideline coaching, so you know that place is going to be loud. So give me the Vols here in a toss-up. I'll either do the money line or just a straight 0.5 favorite there. So any questions, any potential bets? Again, sorry I didn't get a chance to lock in completely on my research, but there we go.
No, yeah. The only thing again, I know we talked about they're just a 3-point underdog for the Cardinals.
Cardinals against the Browns.
Now I've been told on this podcast many times before that the Cleveland Browns are one of the best teams on paper. They put up 42 points in a loss last week. Along with this week coming up, tomorrow, Cardinals are without Chandler Jones potentially. They don't have Cliff Kingsbury, who was their play caller. They also are missing their offensive coordinator, who was also their play caller as well. So they're down to the running backs coach that's calling the plays. And last time I checked, they don't have a great running game at all unless it's Kyler Murray. So this game is really Kyler Murray putting the team on his back. And I've been told the Browns have a superior offensive defense and they have all their players with them. I think that the Browns win, and they don't win by just 3 points. I think they win this by 7 or more. So I would go against that bet that you just made, and that's really just because Cliff Kingsbury is out, and that man is a guru when it comes to it. He's up there with Sean McVay, and again, they're missing their offensive coordinator as well. You have a running backs coach calling plays. I don't like that. And
All right,
Chandler
so
Jones.
Here's my thing. So if this becomes a shootout, let's just say theoretically this becomes a shootout, which was the case last week, would you still take the Browns there?
A shootout would mean, again, the running backs coach is calling the plays for the Cardinals, and the Browns are still having their whole team intact. So, yes, I would actually take the Browns.
I get you, but a Browns team that specializes with running the football as opposed to having Baker Mayfield make plays. Skyler has his hand up. He has a comment. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
My pushback would be, yes, Cliff Kingsbury, I guess, is a good coach, but is it more so Cliff Kingsbury or Kyler Murray that's running that offense? That would be my question. Secondly, Nick Chubb is out. So I would definitely look at that. And the Browns defense, who I gave credit for, who I thought was going to be top 10, has not played at a top 10 level.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Chargers, I mean, I don't foresee them giving up that same amount of points again, but they could very well give up 30, 35 to the Cardinals. And again, is Baker Mayfield and the Browns offense capable enough to keep up and score enough points to beat the Cardinals? That would be my pushback. That would
be great points, bro. And like you can see all on ESPN about how Baker Mayfield and OBJ is not getting the right connections, right? Like, you know, Stephen A is on the bandwagon to get OBJ out of Cleveland, which I can actually agree with. They looked a hell of a lot better last season, coming, you know, doing their thing. And with Nick Chubb not being out, I think the Cardinals could actually probably steal this one, especially if it's a shootout. But that's a game I'm definitely looking forward to watching.
Well, I am picking the Browns. And speaking of pickems, let's go ahead.
Look at us with these segues.
Let's go ahead and
it's a little bit of pick'em game.
Speaking of pick'em, so we have 3 more games that we're going to pick from this week. But before I get into that, I did mention that I was going to keep you guys abreast on the standings after every 4 or 5 weeks of the season. So to start off, let's see. I am actually leading in the standings. I've picked correctly 9 or 15 games. I'm at 60%. Right behind me is Sheedy. He's at 53%. Trevor is shortly right behind him at 46%. And then we got Tuke and Sharky. We got the Cab. I'm not sure what they just don't have that luck. To Sheedy's point, it's a very long season. We have a long ways to go. I will say this: you can be out of it for about a week or two. You can be out of it for about a week or two, but I think Trevor had 2 really good weeks. He had a perfect week, and he had another week where we all kind of sucked. So that's what got him back into it. So Tuke and Sharky, y'all are not out of it. But with that being said, the first game that we're going to pick, gentlemen, is the one second. I had it right here in my face. Is the Miami Dolphins versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go in the order of Trevor, Sheedy, Tuke, and then myself.
Hell no, you need to go second.
Or I will go first in this one. I'm sorry. I'll go first in this one. I'm rolling with Jacksonville to get their first win of the season. Give me Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence will look better than Tua, who I gave a lot of praise to, and he has not made me look good or smart at all. I'm going with Jacksonville.
Believe it or not, I'm taking Jacksonville as well. I think Jacksonville can steal this game. I get it. Miami is getting Tua back, but Miami has not looked good at all this season.
Even defensively.
Even defensively, which was one of the things that we raved about with Miami that could have potentially challenged for not even the playoff spot, but possibly the AFC East. Of course, they weren't going to overtake the Bills, but for that second spot, you thought just because of their defensive line going into the season, you thought they would maybe presented somewhat of a challenge, but they haven't looked good at all this season. Tua is coming back, so it's not really a sure thing as to how healthy he really is. Is he fully going to be 100%? Is he going to be close to And even if that, is he going to be effective? I think the Jaguars, I think at this point, they're tired of everything that's going on. They're tired of being a laughingstock of the league, tired of everything going on with Urban Meyer. I think they come out and play for themselves, and they would ride that wave to a W. So give me Jacksonville.
Look, if the Jaguars can't get a win in Jacksonville, hopefully they can get one in London. So, of course, this game would be played in London. Give me the Jacksonville. Y'all know how I feel about Tua. He been proving me right since he been in the damn league. So,
yeah, you deserve your flowers there.
I tried to tell y'all, man. Sorry, Lito. I know that's your guy, but either way, I think this is the time for Trevor Lawrence to go ahead and get his first dub. Like I said, if they can't get one in Jacksonville, they can get one in London. So give me Sunshine to get his first dub.
Yeah, I'm so surprised. Yeah, I actually had Jacksonville again winning this game. Unfortunately, Jacksonville can still not win in the United States. But let's see if they can win it overseas, get their first dub, and then come back in. Who knows from there? But again, to you guys' point, the Dolphins have not looked impressive at all. Nothing's worked for them besides their cheerleaders. So give me the Jacksonville Jaguars with this one.
And Sharky actually picked the Dolphins. So maybe with all of us picking the Jags and him picking the Dolphins, that will
come on, drop.
That will bode well for him. The next game that we're going to pick is the Seattle Seahawks versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Seattle is without their star quarterback, Russell Wilson. The Steelers still have their old man on crutches, Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback, who did play better. I wouldn't say well. He played better against the Denver Broncos on last week. This game is a Sunday night game. This game is in Pittsburgh. I'll go ahead and lead us off because I don't know who I want to pick. I don't know who I think will win this game. It's just like, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And Ben, he'll have one good game. He'll have 4 bad games right after that. But I'm going to go with Pittsburgh's defense. Can I do that? I'm going to go with Pittsburgh's defense to win this game. That's my pick. Pittsburgh defense will win this game.
This is a game. The Pittsburgh Steelers could not have asked for a bigger break that they got with these past
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing going into the bye week to possibly get back to 500 here. The Seahawks are without Russell Wilson and Chris Carson for that matter. But welcome to the AFC North, where games that are guaranteed to teams in the AFC North is not always what they seem. And the biggest offender of this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers should win this game. And I'm going to go with the Steelers just for the simple fact. Yes, Ben Roethlisberger played better, but here's a key factor. Only 25 passing attempts. 25. No interceptions. So, of course,
but he did have a fumble. He did have a fumble.
Yeah, he did have a fumble. But only 25 passing attempts, 2 touchdowns. Najee Harris kind of led the way there with 23 carries, 122 yards, and is in a touchdown. So you're starting to see that the offensive line is probably starting to gel just a little bit to get somewhat of a running game going. And if Pittsburgh can duplicate that and keep Ben Roethlisberger under 40 throws, because if he's throwing the ball plus 40, it's not looking good for the Steelers. So if the Steelers can continue to establish a running game, continue to do what they're accustomed to doing on defense, I don't see no reason why they're not at 500 going into the bye week. So give me Pittsburgh.
Right, y'all raved about this Steelers defense, and like I said, without Russell Wilson and Chris Carson, who play a huge role in the Seahawks offense, I don't think the Seahawks have enough to do what they need to do to pull the win off. They starring Geno Smith, who I don't remember the last time played an NFL game. And of course, the Steelers got Juju missing for the rest of the season, but I think this is a win that it's going to be a defensive game. Low scoring, and I do expect the Steelers to pull it out. So give me the Steelers.
Yeah, Ben can't throw the juju. DK can't catch the ball from anybody but Russell Wilson. So you got a stalemate there. To your point, defensive struggle. It's going to be Najee versus Bobby Wagner, if you ask me. And how the offensive line scheme blocks for them. Because to your point, Trevor, the Steelers don't win this game throwing it 40+ times. I would even cautiously go anything below 35 because, again, who are those 40 passes going to go to? Anyway, so I'm going to take the Steelers, and I wonder if Cap is going to choose the Seahawks.
He did not. He actually texted me and said the Steelers better win, damn it. That's what he said. Exact words. So we all got the Steelers, so that means the Seahawks will win for anybody that's willing to bet on the game. Don't listen to us. And then the last game of the week, which should be a pretty interesting Monday night game, if I must say so myself. The Buffalo Bills, led by that surprising defense, in my opinion, and everything that comes with them, and going against the Tennessee Titans. I think this game is in Tennessee. It's in Nashville. So I will go second in this one. So Trevor, go ahead and tell me who you got winning.
Oh, this is a tough one. As I said last week, Buffalo is whooping everybody with a switch and then sending them back outside to get a better switch. And of course, they had the impressive win on Sunday Night Football against Kansas City. This is actually a perfect trap game for for Buffalo. And I walked outside this morning, and it was starting to get a little breezy outside, starting to get a little cold. And you know, when it gets cold, you know what that means. It's Derrick Henry season. So a lot of defenses are not going to want to tackle Derrick Henry. I'm actually going to take the Titans in this game because I feel that they're going to do everything in their power to keep Josh Allen off the field. And the best way to keep the opposing quarterback off the field is establishing a run, which I feel that they will do with Derrick Henry. I think a lot of the guys are starting to get it clicking in Tennessee. Buffalo has to lose again at some point, and I think this is going to be the game that happens. So give me the Titans.
Sorry about that. I'm actually going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. To the point that I just said, like their defense has been the surprising factor in this one. What they did to Patrick Mahomes is something that not a lot of teams can do. Yes, there's a blueprint out there for how you defend Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, but you have to have the roster to do such a thing. And so Josh Allen has played really, really well outside of the Pittsburgh game. He's played really, really well. Their defense has shut down a lot of different teams. Now, it hasn't been some of the best teams, but again, what they did to Kansas City, in my opinion, was pretty impressive. I will say that. So give me Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to only win by a late field goal.
All right.
You all been raving about how you all are shocked about the Bills defense. Nah. You got to think Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator for when we went to the Super Bowl that year. And our defense, outside of Cam Newton's, phenomenal, time, that year MVP, he was a defensive coordinator. So we see that his defense, mentality coming over to the Bills. And it's a beautiful thing to see, especially when your offense is rolling. This ain't a tough one for me. I mean, you got Tennessee still trying to figure out who the hell they are. And they got Julio coming back this week, which would be good. But it's still, you don't have that chemistry yet with them. Outside of the Bills, who, like we just said, just beat the Chiefs. And now the Chiefs are looking more vulnerable than I've ever seen them in the last few years. So the Bills going to keep rolling. I don't even think it'll be a close one, to be honest with you. But give me a Bills.
Yeah, Bills gonna be down. I don't have any. I mean, if they just took the Chiefs, and to your point, Trevor, bend them over their leg and spank them, and then went to go get some more and spank them again. The Chiefs are a better team than the Titans. I think we can all agree to that. And don't get me wrong, on any given Sunday or Monday, who knows what's going to happen in 60 minutes? I just don't see, to Skyler's point, this Bills defense has given up, I believe, maybe 60 points all season. And we're in week 6 right now, which means 5 games, and 2 of those games were goose eggs. So give me the Bills. I don't know if the Titans even have enough on offense to beat the Bills or to stay contention with the Bills in any way, shape, or form.
My only push.
Go, Trip.
Yeah, my only pushback with this is the only outside of maybe Washington and Pittsburgh, those are the only teams that are capable of actually running the football. To kind of help wear down Buffalo's defense. Don't get me wrong, Buffalo's defense has been out of this world. They've been extraordinary, but out of all the teams so far that Buffalo has beaten, 2 out of the 3 had actually been capable of running the football. And even with Pittsburgh, that was kind of shaky because they didn't get nothing going until the second half. So I think Buffalo's going to get a heavy dose of Derrick Henry. Having Julio Jones back is a nice little luxury to have. And I guess they'll probably try to figure things out there, but I don't think they're going to force the issue there. I think Tennessee's going to come out. They're going to do what they're accustomed to doing, feed Derrick Henry, keep Josh Allen in that high-power offense on the sideline, try to wear down this Buffalo defense. This could be low scoring. This could be in the 20s for me. So that's my only pushback as to what Buffalo has done. I don't think any of the teams outside of maybe Washington and Pittsburgh could actually effectively run the football. So that's my only pushback there. That's why I went with the Titans.
So 57, that's the number you were looking for, Sheedy. That's how many points the Bills have allowed so far this season. It's 57. I just had a quick off-topic question. Do parents still whoop kids with switches nowadays? I'm just curious.
I don't remember the last time I was at church or I was somewhere and I heard a parent go get a switch. It's been a minute since I've heard.
Well,
That.
they ought to get switches from church.
That's typically the only time I heard it.
I ain't never heard it.
I heard it in the back, like if you had like a backyard and there was some bushes. And
yeah,
trees
at home.
backyard, yeah.
Not while praising the Lord.
God know what it is. God know what it is.
God know what it is.
Hey, and guess what the parent gonna do is one of the commandments: honor thy mother and thy father. Is this the first commandment with promise? So,
oh man, okay. I just had to ask it.
And before we move on, Sharky did pick the Titans to win this game. He said tighten up. That's what he texted me word for word. So we'll see. So I got everybody's picks. I'll give everybody an update probably about week 9 or 10 as far as where the standings are. But it's pretty close right now. So maybe things have changed. Maybe Sharky and Took would come join us here in the next couple of weeks.
Man, I'm just having a terrible time because even my fantasy, like I don't even want to talk about that BS.
It's okay, bro.
Well, if we don't like to talk about football, we can actually start talking about basketball season as well. As we're getting started now. Before I start speaking about the NBA, there's someone in our comment section. I just want to make sure I speak to you right now. Please tweet me at It's Really Sheedy, because if that is your name and if that's what your name needs to be, do never come back on this show again, ever. And again, if you need to talk to somebody about that, talk to me. For those that don't know, there's a comment in here whose name says kill all black people. I hope they all burn in hell. You can talk to me first, and then we'll see who's going to hell first.
All right, don't make me go get a switch.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I hate people that do this because you don't even put your name up there. It's not even your picture. You hide behind everything just like all the other people that are not black do. So I'm cool on you, my guy, my girl, my whatever you are. I do not care. Hi, Nisi. Let's go talk about the NBA. So
let's get it.
NBA talk. We got 3 things that you're looking forward to this NBA season. And thank you. And talking about the NBA season, what we hear a lot about, the Lakers, the Nets, have been a lot in the headlines. So I do want to hear from us just in regards to what are 3 things you're looking forward to? And in the chat, we got Tunica, Trevor, Skylar, and then I'll finish off there. So 3 things you're looking forward to this NBA season.
3 things I'm looking forward to this NBA season. Of course, y'all know me, man. Dub Nation, here we are. The Warriors reloaded, man. As y'all know, the Warriors were best when they were able to go 5 deep, 10, 11 deep, right? and their roster is probably the best roster I've ever seen. I've not ever seen, but I've seen them have. And this is, of course they had Kevin Durant, they cheated basketball and, put the cheat codes in with Kevin Durant, the star lineup. But from top to bottom, this is one of the better rosters I've seen them have, even in their championship run, they literally have everything. And you got, Jonathan Kuminga coming off the bench, who is a baller. You got you got Moses Moody, who they drafted, is gonna put up numbers. You got Jordan Poole, who a lot of people don't know about, who will be a household name, and I think he'll be my sixth man of the year. I got to do a little more research when we have that discussion. But the Warriors are back. I'm excited to watch that, especially when Klay Thompson come back. I do expect them to be a top 2 seed in the Western Conference. But like I said, we'll save that talk for another day. Number 2, got to stay homebound with the Grizzlies. As we know, we've done research as to great point guards who have that third year's explosion. Like we saw Russell Westbrook become Russ in his third year. We saw Derrick Rose win MVP in his third year. I'm not saying John Morant is going to be MVP, but he's going to put up all-star numbers, and I think we're also going to be excited for him. And I think they have a really good chance of winning the Southwest Division. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Grizz, and of course the Steph Curry of centers, as people would call him, Jaren Jackson, who put up 7 threes last night. Even though it's preseason, the regular season starts in a couple of days, and y'all know me, I hadn't sold a stock in Jaren Jackson, since I bought stock. So I'm expecting him to have a great season as well. And last but not least, we're gonna keep it family bound. I expect my cousins LaMelo and Lonzo Ball to be all-stars this year, or at least put up all-star worthy numbers. It's a troll and all. We can talk about it in the next segment after, but those two are in prime positions to turn up in the Eastern Conference, and I'm looking forward to seeing my cousins do what they're supposed to do, which is their last name, which is the ball. So those are my 3 things I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this season.
I'm kind of happy that you kind of closed out your 3 points with the balls, which will lead right into my first point. Just how good are the Chicago Bulls are really going to be? That's one of the things I'm looking for. Chicago Bulls were very active this offseason. Of course, they signed Lonzo Ball. They signed DeMar DeRozan. Of course, the trade deadline last season, they acquired Nikola Vucevic. They took Patrick Williams in the draft, which a lot of us had questions about at that pick, who I guess showed some promise last season. Of course, they also added Alex Caruso. They looked very, very well in the preseason thus far. I'm not going to put too much stock in the preseason, but this team is how it looks on paper and how they've looked thus far. It looks like they're built for a major run in the Eastern Conference. Maybe not to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but don't be surprised if Chicago is close to being in the top 5 in the Eastern Conference this season. So that's my first thing. Second, we know about the Lakers, we know about the Nuggets, we know about the Jazz, and we know about the Warriors. There is a bevy of teams that are kind of like all in the same bowl, being the Grizzlies, the Blazers, the Clippers, the Mavericks, pretty much the rest of the West outside of those 4 teams. I think you could probably throw Houston and Oklahoma City out, and New Orleans for the most part. But out of those, I guess, mid-level Western Conference teams, who's going to be the one that's going to separate themselves from the rest of the pack to take that next step? I'm, as Tuke mentioned, I'm looking to possibly be in the Memphis Grizzlies. John Morant, of course, looks hell-bent on putting up all-star numbers and potentially being an all-star this season. Looking, of course, keeping my close eye on the unicorn himself, Jaren Jackson Jr. there. So they'll be without Dylan Brooks to start the season, but I don't think they're going to miss too much of a beat. I think Desmond Bane is equipped and ready to slide in that role for the time being. But out of Memphis, Portland, the Clippers, the Spurs, those mid-level teams, who's going to be the one that kind of separates themselves from the rest of the bunch to take that next step to possibly being up amongst the elite with the Lakers, Nuggets, and the Jazz and things of that nature? So that's second for me. And lastly, and it pains me to say this, but what's going to happen with Ben Simmons? We know he was threatening to sit out and miss out on his contract until he got what he wanted, which is to be traded from Philly. Now there's implications that he's shown up to camp. Who knows when he's going to actually be able to play. Things of the nature. Then there was another story that came out that he tried to fake a positive COVID test so he can sit out Game 7 against the Hawks. So what's going to happen now with Ben Simmons and how long before he's eventually moved? Will it kind of happen in the same magnitude as James Harden, which will happen within the first couple of months of the season, or would it happen towards the trade deadline? And so if that was to happen, who is actually going to be a viable trade partner for Ben Simmons? Because at this point in time, you can get Ben Simmons for not a whole lot. So who's going to eventually be that team that actually bite and say, hey, I'll take a flyer on Ben Simmons? So those are my three things. Just how good are the Bulls really, because they could potentially be top 5. Who's going to separate themselves in the mid part of the East, and what's going to happen with Ben Simmons.
Cool, good points. My first one was actually going to be, of course, the Golden State Warriors. I've been, Steph Curry and
you can talk about him
in the preseason has been all over my Twitter feed, and good God, that man is unguardable. So that would have been one of my ones, just like how, like I know, but not many people are talking about the Warriors. Of course, the Lakers are getting a bunch of talk. The Nets are getting a bunch of talk. Milwaukee is getting some talk here and there, but nobody's talking about the Golden State Warriors. And as a Lakers fan who's in the same division as the Warriors, you kind of got to be scared come December, January when Klay Thompson comes back. So that's the thing that keeps me up at night is, worrying about them. Another one that I'm thinking about is Zion Williamson. It was Zion Williams. Like, what in the world is going on in New Orleans is crazy. Like, nobody's really talking about that pretty much. I mean, there's been news put out this week that he won't be ready for the start of the season, but he could very well not accept the max offer that the Pelicans are going to give him. And that's probably going to be the first time I think that a rookie is going to turn down such an extension like that. So that's going to be very interesting to see, how this situation plays out. I'm excited for him to leave New Orleans, so that way, because there's also been talk recently that the NBA is going to put a team in Vegas, and so that way it's not the Grizzlies that's being talked about. That hopefully, very well that's the Pelicans. Another thing that I'm looking for, since took one of mine. I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics and what Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum looks like. We talk about consistently, that it seems as if Portland can't get out of their own way because they don't know who they want between Dame and CJ McCollum. And what Boston has could very well be the exact same thing. 2 really good players, one player that may be better than the other one, but you kind of don't know which week of the season who's better. So kind of, where that team falls in line, because I know they still have to worry about Brooklyn. They still have to worry about Milwaukee. They still have to worry about the Heat. So, if you're the Boston Celtics, what exactly do you want to do with the team? So I'll be looking forward to that. And then I guess the last thing is there aren't many bad teams in the league. So I think come toward, the 75 to 82 mark game of the season, it's going to be a lot of tight races to kind of see who gets that final spot in the playoffs. So I think that watch would be very interesting. Who's in the playing situation? There's going to be, especially in the West, there's going to be there's going to be at least 2 or 3 teams dang, they couldn't get in because it's the West and it's because it's so loaded. So I think because there's not many bad teams in the league, it's going to be very close come down to the end of the season.
Skyler only had about 5 things that he wanted to happen this upcoming season. But jump on the bandwagon of what he just said. Actually, I'm going to segue into that action in a moment. So I'll limit mine to 3. And my first thing is the MIP race. Who's going to win most improved player? You have a lot of guys that now have had a full recovery on the off season. You have some guys in some different situations with some different teams. And it's who's going to really showcase. So you've already mentioned Zion, with his contract. We have some hungry Bulls in Chicago that are looking to make some differences. We got some guys with the Hornets as well. But I'm looking to see who transcends themselves as a most improved player. Julius Randle had a hell of a season last season and took the Knicks and dragged the Knicks to the playoffs, even though they got whomped by the Hawks. So let's never forget what the Hawks did last season. Please never forget that. And so MIP race for sure. And it also leads into the play-in scenario. First of all, keep the play-in scenario where it's at. I understand like teams that get like 17 or 8 seed throughout the season are like mad and frustrated, like, well, we got to win another game to get in. You only have to win one game. You can lose one and still win the next one and still be okay. And so to me, keep the play-in scenario, to your point, Skylar, who's going to be in the West. And honestly, the East is good too. It's much better because now we're talking about the Chicago Bulls are actually a team that may not even be in the play-in scenario. They may even be a top six team in the East. So what does that actually look like? Because I think we got a lot of great basketball from the play-in scenario last 2 seasons. Not so much in the East, but really in the West. But let's see how that now transcends. And my other take is I want to do this all differently. Is what is going to be that big mid-season trade? So over the years, and I'm going to go like way back, you've had like Clyde Drexler get traded to the Rockets, and they went on to win a championship. You've had Pau Gasol get traded mid-season and help the Lakers go on and win. So who is going to be that mid-season trade that really moves the needle for any given team? But we also have some failures on some mid-season trades as well. And so I'm interested to see who is going to come and emerge as that mid-season trade and what that does for all teams, including sometimes it's not 2 teams, sometimes it's 3 or 4, depending upon who you are. And so thank you. I hope to hear from Cap as well about his 3, along with Savage as well. And will lead us into, does anyone have anything else that they would like to say? Because I know Skylar gave about 42 of those. No? Okay.
I think
we'll
just
how
quickly,
both of y'all said no. Now y'all saying yes.
I
was just real quick. Just I think next week, because I know we did it for the start of last season. I think we can do our predictions next week as far as award winners, pretty much.
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll talk to Cap.
All right, Cap, if you're listening, predictions, award predictions.
Now, to me, man, I just wanted to say on Lito's point, man, I think it's just funny that we literally hadn't heard a word about Zion Williamson pretty much at all summer. And him coming into the league, he was supposed to be the next big, great hope. And now that he's letting everybody down, we ain't had a word about him. So I think us as, people that are analysts or analyzing the game, we got to call these folks out, dog. Like they were dead ass wrong. They were wrong about Zion Williamson.
Because Berg coming in the camp out of shape,
right? And it's like I know it's New Orleans, but this doesn't happen more than once. This happens your whole career so far. And you on 2K covers and shit, man. Nah.
And to point out what you guys are saying, and then we'll switch to Troll or Nah, is he's hurt again. He has surgery. Again on something that's below his waist, so his lower body again. And so. Why he shouldn't be getting shine, but I mean, what's that kid from Sacramento, Halliburton? The Kings just signed him to another extension, and he had an amazing season last season. Now we're not going to talk about the Kings like that, but individual talent, they got it at a few positions. But let's go ahead and transition over to our Troll or Nah. Speaking of Zion trolling us from the NCAA to the NBA. Anybody got some Troll or Nas that they can join and bring into the segue now?
Let's want to talk about my cousins being all-stars. We can definitely do that. Melo and Lonzo will be all-stars this year. I think so. I think LaMelo's stardom will catapult him in, especially because I think Ben Simmons was starting last. Who was it? Ben Simmons. I think it was Ben Simmons starting last season. Of course, he's probably not going to get the love that he got last year, and I think the explosive displays from LaMelo will get him, those votes, especially if Charlotte have a good record. In Chicago, I think they'll be a top 4 seed. Of course, they'll have Zach LaVine. Yeah, I said it. I think Zach LaVine will be a starter as well, and I think Lonzo will be somebody that has all-star numbers and could potentially get him into the all-star game. Because if you think about the Eastern Conference all-stars, you got guards-wise, you got Brad Beal, who definitely will be in, and you got Kyrie Irving, who I guess won't even be playing this season. So I think those are 2 spots for You know, I mean, of course, top 10 Larry, but I don't think that the Heat will have 3 players coming from that team, especially all coming from the bench. Like I said, LaMelo, he can be actually voted in. I don't see Jimmy Butler or top 10 being voted in into the starters. But I can see LaMelo Ball being voted in as a starter. Y'all know I love me some top 10, but I'm gonna be real about this one. So trolling now, my cousins will be all-stars this year.
I couldn't come off mute fast. Go ahead, Sally. Yep.
You think both? Nah, I can't see that one. I mean, I could see it, but not this year. Maybe next. No, I don't know about this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean more towards Zoe getting the nod more so than LaMelo. Charlotte like really has to. They have to damn near be top 4 in the East before
not to get voted in by the fans. Y'all reckon could be Owen whatever.
Zoe would get to know because that's true. He makes all these fantastic plays, but does it translate to winning? Because fans love 2 things. They love flashy plays, but they also love winning. So if he's making all these flashy plays, and he's popular, but Charlotte's not winning, they could get him as a reserve, possibly. I'm gonna lean more towards Zoe getting in before LaMelo, but just not this. It wouldn't be this season. I can definitely see this happening next season, though.
Yeah, I actually both of them getting in. I don't think so. I think to your point that you just said too, flashy, stuff like that. Lonzo does that better than Melo, and he does it at a winning pace. And so the Bulls may actually get maybe 2 in. Who knows? And to me, the second one is actually not even going to be DeMar DeRozan, big Vucci in the paint. Vucci Man LaFleur and that footwork. And that's going to get him to a top 6 seed. Right. Top 4 is pushing it. It's really pushing it because top 4 would mean that you got Boston.
I was saying in the case for LaMelo, like Charlotte would have to be in that.
Yeah, no. I'm not discussing what you're talking about, Trevor. I'm discussing what he said. And he said that the top 4 team.
I mean, if you look at that division that they in, Detroit, Pacers, Cleveland, okay, Milwaukee, that'd be top. Okay, so top 5. Okay, top 5.
Now 5, I can argue. But 6, I'm thinking they can actually secure their spot for sure, and they don't even need to be in the playing game. And it's because of the lineup that Chicago has built. I think they can actually be in the top 5, top 6. I agree there.
Yeah, and they just wasn't. And then now that I think about it, Charlotte was in the playing game just this past season. They just weren't ready for the moment at that time because they ended up getting smashed by I think it was Washington, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, they just weren't ready for the moment, but I think they'll be much better this season. So they could definitely be top 6, top 7. So
that's all I had.
Cool. There's one I had. I can't remember who this came from. Never mind, because that's more of your board segment, so I won't even bring that up right now because it was disgusting.
Oh yeah, you got to tune in to last episode, dog. we kind of went there with them last episode, but yeah. That was one of the first topics from our last episode. If you definitely want to check that out, please do so.
Yeah.
And for those listening, he asked, did we talk about Kyrie Irving? We definitely talked about it. Yeah.
I do think a trade is coming, though. I do think a trade could be coming.
I don't. It's weird to say, but I don't see how the Nets will trade Kyrie, especially if he's threatened to retire. Like, what team will want?
Well, he's already said he's not going to retire. He's not going to get vaccinated, so that means he's not going to be playing for the Nets this season. So
that man's going to get vaccinated, dog.
Yeah. So at this point, the Nets
going to get vaccinated. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's going to get vaccinated eventually. So. At this point, I think the Nets probably look to move on from him at this point. Because they don't have it, they don't have that much money tied to him because they already said they're not giving him an extension. He's not looking. It doesn't look like he's going to be playing this season, so they're probably going to call him on his bluff of retiring. They're going to look to make a deal for something.
If the Nets trade him, it's going to be a James Harden trade where it's going to be a terrible trade. They just get him out there. If there's a trade, like they will not get equal value for Kyrie Irving.
They won't. But in the other point of it is, do they need it? Because a healthy James Harden, a healthy Kevin Durant can do well for the Nets. But sprinkle some Kyrie. Kyrie can give you some role players, and I think that's better for them overall.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can get a bid because that damn Giannis ain't going no damn where.
Oh, he got a jumper too. It might be over for the league.
Like, come on, man. LaMarcus Aldridge and Paul Millsap, much respect to them, but they not stopping Giannis. They not stopping Blake Griffin. Come on, man. Oh my goodness.
The Heat got the low key. I would hope the Giannis stop it with PJ Tucker, but we'll see. But I'm cool. I don't have anything for Troll or Nah. If we don't have nothing else, I'll land on that PJ Tucker mess. Hey, man, have a great week. Stay blessed, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. And make sure you check us out next week. Same time, same channel, same black people on your station. Holla at you.
Peace.